Getting ready to go, Fujo.
I think, with this being a resale shop, I got the higher brand stuff,
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry. I completely forgot. Okay. So cool car alert. Michelin wheels. It's pretty cool. Looks like a Chevy or something similar. Leave a comment. It's real common what I've been seeing a lot of these little RVs kind of rolling around. This one's on the back of a truck. They have all these communities and stuff. It's exactly what Stephen King was writing about in the Not People and stuff. But I found out that those people are actually the bad people in the movie. I haven't seen Dr. Sleep or read it, but I remember hearing about he was writing about these people in RVs and stuff. But anyway, there's all these RV parks and trailer parks all around in this area. Not this particular area. You got a boat down that way. But it's a lot right now. A lot of what we're getting is an influx of a lot of traffic. There's a plane right there. But then right there, these guys are from Oklahoma, which isn't a bad thing, really. There's the RV or Jayco Eagle that you see a lot of this right here going on everywhere. So a lot of people are kind of shifting and ideals and plans and things like that. That one car of the year about 3 years in a row, way back. Amazon truck alert. Prime. Here, these planes will pump out probably every 3 or 4 minutes. You can see above that street light. Well, there it is. You can see it coming up right above. Yeah, I say I've been in traffic for quite a bit of time and seen about maybe 15 of them. There they are, coming through, or just flying through. They're pumping them out at DFW Airport because it's international, right down that way. You can see this sign right here showing the airport. You can probably do the math and figure out 635 DFW Airport, a little detour. So all this road work you're seeing here going along DFW Airport, they've been doing this stuff since I was pretty much maybe junior high, maybe 1980s. They've never fixed any of this road right here by Bass Pro. All this area's always been under construction for as long as I can remember. That highway right there where that bridge is coming out of DFW Airport, somewhere like an I-35, whatever, leave a comment. 635, 114, all of that stuff has been under construction for probably more than 3, maybe 4, maybe half a decade, probably a century. Probably since Bonnie and Clyde been hanging out, they've been doing work on that road right there, if it's even around. You look right here on this Bass Pro, you can see another one coming through, barely. Kind of squint your eyes, you can kind of see it moving. See it right here? There it goes. Those pump out every about 3 or 4 minutes constantly. You can see it moving right there. You can hear the crosswalk too right there. See another one just a few seconds later, right about here. You can hear the other one passing right there. So this song has like a long history. Have you ever seen Say Anything with John Cusack? Pretty good actor. Probably one of her best. This song actually is a big song, like if you're in the 80s, coming into the 90s, really, 1990s. It's kind of a love song. Peter Gabriel's probably one of his best songs he's ever done, kind of in the South Lake area. But it's an infamous song. It's mostly known for "Say Anything." Got a fire truck coming up this way, and that's kind of what it's been coined as. I don't really know if it's been used in any other movies that are well known. Leave a comment. Believe it or not, speaking of Peter Gabriel, that used to be a rock and roll school. I got it. But anyway, you can't see through the truck, but you can see the actual green where the paint was. So that was the School of Rock right there, near South Lake, right by Carroll. And they closed it down. Just recently closed that one down. So I've been driving here just a second. I try to show you that School of Rock thing that closed down in South Lake. Ellen DeGeneres just tweeted, and it was funny because I didn't have time to read it. Plus I was driving, but I was like, sometimes I tweet. I'll just usually say tweet. I literally say tweet on the tweeter. But then every once in a while I'll post something on YouTube on my tweeter or my Twitter, and she just tweeted. And I thought that was funny because there's certain people out there that are, they're not really using Twitter as much, or Twitter. Is it Twitter or Twitter? Leave a comment. But basically it's off limits to, there's certain people out there that have trouble with the accounts. And anyway, it came through. So Ellen DeGeneres basically, I don't know, if you know what it says, leave a comment. Here's a date. This traffic now in South Lake is probably about 10 times worse than it used to be. The reason for this whole drive right here is because I'm trying to figure out some stuff with TurboTax. I'm going to another place. I'll tell you about it later. But anyway, this whole traffic area is way worse. It used to be nothing but farmland right here, Back to the Future style. I'd say probably like every fourth person here is a millionaire. Every house in this area over here is probably worth maybe, 20, maybe $30 million. It's pretty average price, maybe higher. So my dad had this idea that I should do mime in one of these places. And, he's like, well, you got to get the business owner's permission, And I'm just my second wife was sitting there and I was just like, oh dear. All right, I found out what was going on. It's a simple error. So these little companies out there, like Food for Friends and things like that, what they did was they sent the previous year for the return. They'll reject it in that case, as they did last year. So you got to have the right year. It's easy to get a hold of the wrong year because they have this little tally thing. And that's what I have to do. I have to go and straighten it all out. But then one of them worked out. I worked with a few of them. So anyway, I have to get everything correct. Basically, it works like this. Each Food for Friend app, when you're delivering food for friends, they all have separate companies they use to report to the IRS. There's a number they use. That number has to match up with the other numbers when they file it or they'll reject it. It was easy for me to get the 2019 one. Don't know why, but that was for one of the Food for Friends, because there's 3 Food for Friends. There's Food for Friends 1, Food for Friends 2, and Food for Friends 3. They all have different names. So those numbers you have to get to file correctly. It could be the AGI, which is adjusted gross income or whatever. I was putting in last night a 2019 one that one of the Food for Friends 2, sent me because it was archived. But I figured since they sent it to me, it was the 2020 and it was the 2019. So when I sent it through on TurboTax, when I sent it through, they rejected it because those numbers have to add up for each one. I'll give you an example. There's a company out there called Postmates. They use, I believe, a company called Stride. So Stride is a company that works with Postmates And what they do is they file away each year. They archive it, so you can go back and you can access it just by logging in. Once you get that number, then you can file with that number. You can deal with, everything else you do, QuickBooks, whatever you use. It can be anything. The problem is sometimes you have to be able to either log in, or they have to at least be able to mail the information to you. So you have to be real careful when you go through your mail and things like that, that you have that correct number. Because if you don't have those correct numbers, they'll return it. They'll reject it. That's what they did last year. So I did work for Uber and Uber Eats last year and got that information mailed to me. Some of the information from Food for Friends was mailed to me. So the reason I'm using Food for Friends in this little, I guess, documentary or whatever you want to call it, vlog or whatever, is because of agreements. It just has to do with some confidentiality agreements. So Food for Friends represents something else. But anyway, what I'm basically trying to say is that when I filed with Uber, what I probably did, because I had Uber and Uber Eats that I filed with, is I didn't file with a few amount of money that I probably did with Postmates, which could have been maybe more than 600. 600 is the magic number on that. So if you make more than 600, even if it's $601 or just 600, you have to file it, because you won't have that magic number that you need. Each company, if you make more than 600, will report that to the IRS. You have to know that number to file. The guy that files it for you has to have that number. So you have to have it mailed to you. It's a little difficult than a W-2 because you're dealing with a 1099. But as long as you have those numbers, you'd be okay. If you don't, then you have to find out a way to get those numbers. It's actually called Stripe. I said stride. Stripe. Stripe is what they use. Another one is a pay thing. And you have to get the numbers. They have a disclaimer about the amount. But we have to know the amount that they report so that we can give it to our accountant. It's floating around in the mail. Anyway, this is a really good song. I thought it would be kind of cool basing, I guess, some of the idea for Grace, which is a fighting film, on the fighter. I guess there's always a little bit of drugs and anything that you deal with in life, even to the end. Drugs are just, anyone that says they're drug free, they're probably true. They could probably, but there's always something. So I thought maybe instead of having the fighter, not the fighter, but the MMA fighter guys, it's about MMA. Instead of having them kind of being on drugs, I thought maybe one of the love interests was on drugs, like possibly even alcohol. A little like Hoosiers with Dennis Hopper. When Dennis Hopper is the one that's battling with alcoholism, but yet he's using the spirit of the basketball team as inspiration to kind of find the best part of himself, to find a good positive side to himself. So I thought maybe one of the love interests, which I think I was going to call her Rainey, for Grace, because it was Grace Lippin, which is a common Apache name. And the lady who's Rainey really likes this song. So it could have been like a moment of maybe the early part of the film, like in The Fighter, where he comes out and he's listening, Mark Wahlberg is listening to, that character is listening to that White Snake song. He's telling him, don't worry about it. This could be like an MMA thing where he comes out and then, they're playing, because he's a small time, up and coming MMA fighter, and he's listening to this song, and the crowd's kind of, I don't know if they're booing or whatever. I have to figure that out. But he's got his trainer with him, and then that kind of opens up, and then you see how they wrestle. So you're introduced, kind of an exposition. You see how the wrestling goes down. So you get the first kind of feel of what the MMA fighters are kind of like. And that would be kind of like an opening scene. I'm doing everything on note cards right now to kind of like mix up different ideas to find out this image to this idea to this idea. Also, I wanted to have an idea that maybe that Rainey who is probably struggling with alcoholism, works at a pet shop maybe, kind of like Adrian and Rocky. And that's where he goes into the pet shop, kind of near a reservation, because they're dealing with kind of like Native American, Apache kind of thing. And he goes in, he sees this bone constrictor kill like something. I don't know if it's like a rabbit or something weird. So he gets the idea for a certain kind of chokehold or something. I thought that was an image. And then you see him kind of the montage and all that kind of stuff. And he deals with her going to like a church. I don't know, like we have a church out here called Freedom Church. It's a church that sees the realism of alcoholism and drug addiction and things like that. So he's trying to do two things. He's trying to help her recover from alcoholism, because alcoholism is pretty serious. And then he's trying to become like the next up and coming great fighter, like maybe like Hoist Gracie or something like that. Based a little bit on Hoist Gracie, not completely. You don't even really have to have the whole Brazil influence. I thought using Brazil Jiu-Jitsu would be good because it deals with a lot of grappling. And I thought maybe he's dealing with trying to help her become sober, and in the same instance, he's trying to build a career as a fighter, as an MMA fighter, mixed martial arts. I guess so that they can like buy a house, and you know, maybe she listens to the fight, you know, from afar, because she can't deal with the fact that it actually is going on. So she listens to Grace, you know, give some speeches and stuff like that. St. Patty the Great, and I've struggled with who is the bad guy on this one. I thought it would be interesting for this particular fighting film, or this particular MMA film, a little bit like Warrior, which is the Nick Nolte, Tom Hardy one, and the other guy, the Behringer guy, whatever his name is. I thought it'd be interesting to have them both kind of the good guys in a way. So there is no real bad guy in a way. Because fighting is kind of wrong. Mixed martial arts, it can get bad. A lot of people look back and they're fans of Shamrock when Shamrock fought Hoist Gracie. And then a lot of people like Hoist Gracie because he was the smaller guy. It's kind of a David and Goliath story in a way. But you kind of leave it up to whoever, you leave it up to the audience to find out who the good guy is and who the bad guy is. So the whole Shamrock story, which is St. Patty the Great, maybe have him like maybe going to Japan, studying shoot fighting, kind of becoming a better fighter so that he can take down Grace Lippin. So it's got the same kind of feel, because I think they actually have this fight where he fights St. Patty the Great early on. So it's early on in the film, and he beats him. He beats him pretty quick. After that, he gets the belt, and that's kind of like could be the first part of the film, or even the film itself. Or there could be a resolution or a denouement where St. Patty comes back and beats him, or they have to call the fight off. So it's got two different versions of Rocky in just one film. There's two fights that happen. The first one where he beats him in the early part of it, then he deals with having a lot of money, buys a place, Rennie gets kind of sober, and then there's a second part where he wants a rematch, and he comes back, and they have to end the fight because it's kind of bloody, because he learns. Because see, St. Patty was overconfident. It's about overconfidence a little bit, and he decides to basically, you know, take him on the first time. He gets beat really bad. And the second time, he learns his technique, and he comes back, and they call it off. So it ends the same way Rocky 1 ends. It ends about the same way.